The autobiography I chose for this assignment is John Callahan's Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot. Throughout this presentation of the text, I will be drawing in a similar style that Callahan became famous for later in his life. Okay, let's begin. Callahan was involved in a drunk driving accident that gave minor injuries to his friend driving but left him with a spinal injury that made him a quadriplegic for life. He was 21. The overall theme I gathered from Callahan's story is a quote from page 120. You can't ask for help if you don't think there's anybody to give it. Callahan's childhood is marked with abandonment as he was the illegitimate son of a runaway Irish Catholic. His adopted family cared for him but never in an emotional way. He felt isolation that was only intensified by the family's legalistic ideals. A silent cry for help at age 12 led him to the bottle, and just the sort of crowd that would supply him all through high school. Fast forward to the years that followed his accident, Callahan only grows in bitterness as he realizes his limitations. After intense and world-class rehab, his lack of money left him in often incapable hands. How could he ask for help if nobody could give it without promise of a good paycheck? There are a lot of detailed frustrations over his bowel regimen, catheters, and attendants. Often his attendants were addicts themselves and were terribly unreliable. This only led to further dependence on alcohol. Callahan's disability always seemed overshadowed by his real problem of alcohol and deep abandonment issues. It wasn't until he was 27 that he truly hit rock bottom. He describes how a physical sensation of a hand patting him on the back comforted him. That supernatural occurrence changed Callahan forever. Though he never seeks out God, the event did get him to seek help through AA. He gained a sponsor, learned to ask for help, invested in something bigger than himself, and stopped the self-pity. After becoming sober, the remainder of the book focuses on his life as a quadriplegic trying to make it in a society. This is where his cartooning takes off. Despite the success of his cartoons, Callahan remains on welfare. He provides the reader a look into welfare that even I felt frustrated reading about. Callahan's main frustration with welfare was that it didn't allow a gradual way out. If he made too much money, he was always at risk of being kicked off. However, the money he did make would not provide the necessary medical insurance he needed. Another frustration Callahan described is that welfare would save money by eliminating prevention, and would often blame the victim for needs. To illustrate this, allow me to read a brief excerpt from the book. Flying down the street, I'll hear the telltale clunk. The chair will roll out of control, completely dead. I sit there roasting or freezing or getting soaked depending on the season, blowing an appointment with an editor or a friend. Eventually, somebody consents to give me a push. Then if they put my quarter in the payphone, I'm able to call one of the wheelchair repairmen and say, "Look, I'm downtown and my chair is broken. Can you do something?" "Well, we can't do anything until we get an okay from your caseworker, so try to get a hold of her and call me back." So I accost another stranger who dials the Portland Welfare Office for me. "Oh, Suzanne left at 2 o'clock today. Can I talk to her supervisor?" "He's not in the office today." "I've got an emergency here," I say, trying to describe my situation. But I'm cut off with, "Well, you'll just have to call back tomorrow. We're not able to help you at this time." So I call back the wheelchair company. "Sorry, but they've really cracked down on us. We can't make a move until the funding is in order." Finally, I call a Broadway cab. I sit home until the night attendant shows up at 10 p.m., unable to turn on the TV, get a drink of water, or move 1 inch for 6 hours. In conclusion, Callahan becomes an advocate for those with disabilities, willing to meet with senators and discuss the issues he faced every day. He wanted people to find the help they needed, and he was willing to give it. In the end, Callahan's cartoons remained controversial, but his defense was that comedy is the main weapon we have against the horror. Truly, it forced people to deal with certain atrocities, and Callahan was okay with any reaction as long as it wasn't indifference.